A young internationally ranked tennis player trains 2 hours before and 3 hours after school. He wants to withdraw from his PE class so he can get more study time in. As school principal, do you allow this schedule change? I made the decision to allow the change, but that's considered pushing against the rules in our current system, and I ended up with the proverbial knock on the knuckles. Pushing back against the rules started way back when I was a 9-year-old. That's when my best friend and I took over our 4th grade classroom. The teacher had drained the joy out of learning, and when we complained, he challenged, "If you can do better, come be the teacher." So we did. It was a temporary coup and did not end well when the school called our parents. Little did I know that this would begin a lifelong pattern of pushing back against the status quo and traditional schools. Now I'm the parent. I have 2 wonderful daughters, so very different, and each with her own academic needs. Jadrian, my first daughter, has an autism ADHD diagnosis. High school was agony for her. Fortunately, a kind health science teacher with a dog under her desk awoke Jadrian's passion for healthcare. Gianna, her sister, is a gifted learner, but was frustrated and bored and even skipped a grade. She lamented the academic bulimia of binging and purging on material that seemed meaningless. At 15, we were lucky that I could get her into an early entrance college program. 2 daughters, same parents, very different experience. I'll bet you also know of a child who could not make the one-size-fits-all learning model work. With my experience and skills, I was able to use lots of learning options with my daughters. But what of the many children who don't have a parent who can navigate this educational terrain? My passion is to help schools become human-centered so that all kids fit. Ideally, this would replace the content focus of our outdated industrial era schools. I built this nurturing kind of school early in my career in a huge high school. I had ached seeing kids fall through the cracks. It spurred me to get 4 teachers on board, and we created a caring school within a school. As mentors, our aim was to forge connections and offer inclusive project-based learning. The students flourished. After my daughter's frustrating high school experience, I needed to step up. I wanted to help change our schools. Investing my life savings and lots of sweat equity, I opened my own microschool in 2013. Thank goodness for kind folks who coached me and believed in a school where kids would all thrive and not fall through the cracks. Our school is built on relationships. Love is the foundation. This means learning, age, gender, and other differences become normalized, and kids get to just be kids. We play to strengths. Students learn at their own pace, sometimes really ahead in one subject, but perhaps a little slower in terms of another subject or social connections. They have a say in what and how they learn. Content is just one factor. Their interests drive their learning. Imagine schools shifting away from this textbook focus on content. Can you imagine community projects and growth measuring success instead of pencil and paper tests? What if all children could let their creativity and curiosity drive their learning? Teachers would fan these creative sparks creating walls of passion, and many more dynamic youth like Greta and Malala would be lighting our world on fire. This is how I want to contribute to educational change. We've removed so many barriers, and youth are empowered. We have one teacher for each 6 students, a sliding scale for tuition, and students are happy and learning. We'll quickly fill our school, right? Wrong. Even when a student is struggling, the parents and kids are still not willing to try another type of school. So then I decided I'd play bigger and write a guidebook on how others could create a school within a school or micro-school. So my board chair and I took on the challenge as a summer project. Information will turn the tide, right? Wrong. Even when I created a step-by-step process, very few people were willing to take the first step. Ramping up my passion again, I launched an upbeat podcast filled with examples of student-driven learning. These wonderful examples are going to drive educational change, right? Wrong. School leaders enjoy listening, but it doesn't create a change in their schools. And I found out that most of these amazing innovators I interview are also in an uphill battle. Making student-centered change stick, let alone grow, is taking Herculean effort for them too. Putting kids in the center of their learning always takes pushing against that boulder of resistance and status quo. Sometimes I feel like the exhausted Greek mythology character Sisyphus. He's being punished by Zeus, who forces him to roll the boulder up the hill for eternity. Every time the boulder reaches the top, it rolls back down again. Why is the boulder of school change rolling back down on me? I was at a loss. Hadn't we all listened to Sir Ken and Rita's talks telling us schools kill creativity and every student deserves a champion? Hadn't we listened to my wonderful podcast guests sharing shining examples of student-driven schools? In spite of all this passion and hard work, something wasn't right. What was the missing ingredient? Without understanding how change happens, I found myself still pushing that boulder up the hill. Then I was struck twice, metaphorically, by lightning. A smart friend came on my podcast, and she explained what goes on in our brains when we think about committing to something. It turns out our subconscious is calling the shots much of the time. Our brain processes 11 million bits of information subconsciously every second for the 40 bits we process consciously. And it's using herding instincts and familiarity biases to stay safe. I hadn't realized how big an ask it was for prospective parents and students to look at school differently. This went well beyond logic and tapped into survival instincts. Wow, this reframing was vital to my mission. So, if our subconscious is making these automatic decisions to keep us safe, how can we look at change without it being so scary? The answer came soon after, when a presenter addressed our regional school leaders group. She shared that often we look at a tough situation as a problem. But sometimes these situations aren't problems to solve, they're dynamic tensions to manage. Paradoxes with two interdependent sides, like breathing has inhaling and exhaling, with both polarities needing to integrate so that we can breathe. Stretching to see this both and dynamic helps our subconscious stay safer. From this creative space, ideas flow and grow. Eureka! Making our schools places of equity with youth empowered is a polarity. This shifts my question of either traditional or innovative schools, and it becomes one of how do we look at both continuity and transformation in our schools and take the best of each. Stretching to see this duality means that we can get the best of both. What would you change in our current system? And what would you keep? Our existing school system has much in place that serves our learners and needs to be kept. From dedicated teachers to extracurriculars where students shine. So I let go of my either-or mindset. Like most folks who are unhappy with the situation, I'd wanted others to change their minds, but I was the one who needed to change my mind first. Our logical problem-solving attempts at fixing schools have not worked. We've tried hard for decades. It is polarity, both and thinking, that will transform our schools. Feeling revitalized with this integrative new approach, I am fueled with hope for my mission. I'm working with a large variety of voices and organizations. As a collective, we are using this understanding to fuel school change. It feels exciting to be working together. We see schools being places that spark passion and purpose. The boulder's still on the hill, but now there are others with me pushing, and we are fueled by hope and understanding. I know I'm on the right track. Changing my mind is helping change our schools. I see it yet again. Tonight, our full senior class of 5 students will be crossing the stage. One of them, Charles, arrives in spectacular full drag, proudly wearing an elegant gown. He came to us as a gender-fluid 7th grader who'd been bullied for being different. This brilliant learner can fix antique clocks and explain the intricacies of Victorian architecture. Charles has been accepted to multiple colleges, and he showed up tonight in a way that says, "This is who I am, world." We could not have been prouder of him. This is the kind of label-free empowerment I dream of for all of our students. How about you? What boulder are you pushing uphill? Are you locked in a mindset that builds divisions instead of bridges? Changing my mind frees me to create and collaborate from common ground. It lets me be a force for good. You can unpack your expectations and take action too. The world, with its many divisions and outdated institutions, needs you. How will you change your mind and make a difference?